They also established schools and schools of cells throughout the Middle East and throughout the European community. So you find today ISIS cells just about in every country in the region, the Middle East as well as in Europe. And I'm sure there are a couple of them also in Kosovo, but certainly they don't advertise themselves. So I wanted to know from you what it is, where does Kosovo stand at this point in dealing with this issue of radicals who went, I joined ISIS, and some of them came back.
Professor, thank you for inviting me. I'm very glad that we are continuing our discussions that I enjoyed a lot during the time you came to our consulate. And I'm very honored to be here together with you in the capacity of head of a mission on Kosovo in New York and being able to talk about my country. About radicalization and violent extremism, Kosovo is one of countries as there was no country who was spared from that bad phenomena, as you also stated. But Kosovo didn't know about this issue before the war in '99. And after '99, the UN administration after 2008, in fact, there were many of good organizations who came to Kosovo and helped with building of good country, of war-torn country. But among these organizations who really helped Kosovo was also infiltrated some of NGOs from East who, through the humanitarian work or other, try to infiltrate and to influence, especially young people, to this ideology. There were also cases that they paid to women to put scarves, and they gave that regularly in order to keep that. And unfortunately, we were not too much prepared to that, and we needed some time to wake up, let's say, and to be aware of what is happening. After independence of Kosovo in 2008 and formation of our institutions, we immediately started with a national strategy to combat terrorism and violent extremism. And after that, we have the second national strategy, and now it is in preparation the third national strategy, since the radicalization also changed the form. And with defeating in Syria and Iraq, they are transforming themselves, and also we need to be in a way to combat them. So what happened in Kosovo? Unfortunately, it never happened any kind of attack. Kosovo was spared of this attack. I don't believe it was spared because they like Kosovo, but I think that it is also thanks to very good prepared police and law enforcement organizations that are the best trained and the best equipped in all the region of Balkans. I remember during the time when I was a member of parliament, and that was a time when this radicalization started to be shown, and mosques that are mosques led by Islamic Association, that is traditional and very peaceful, started to replace imams with ones who were preaching radicalization. And at that time, myself and women parliamentarians also stood up and make a big deal and asked institutions to take care, because there is something that is happening and we are not enough aware of that. Thanks to awareness, also our institution took it very seriously. And I have to say that I was a member of parliament in 2015 when we passed the law that is prohibiting Kosovar citizens to participate in foreign wars. To tell the truth, that time I didn't believe that a law can stop.
What happened that day?
In 2015, yes, we passed the law that prohibits and sentenced up to 15 years prison to those who breach that law and go to foreign flights. And I'm very happy that I was wrong. And after that law, there was no other citizen of Kosovo who went to foreign wars. In fact, there were more than 120 who returned, and who most of them are imprisoned. And there are also a number who appealed to the court and waiting for the sentences.
And then, as we were talking a little bit earlier, I've been involved in writing, especially on the question of radicalization. But one thing in Europe and the Middle East, I'm talking to many people, by and large, they emphasize security and intelligence. That is, they want to augment internal security, and for good reason, that's necessary. And they also want to do better intelligence, and specifically sharing of intelligence. I found, for example, it's something bizarre even in the European Community within the EU. They share intelligence up to a point because they want to protect sources. And then there was this ongoing still discussion about some members of the Europe about this particular issue. But one thing that I want to find out what it is that Kosovo is doing. And when you say you send people to prison 15 years, well, that is a serious punishment. But if nothing happened in the prison, that is, if they are not receiving any kind of rehabilitation of sorts, any kind of education, some sort of profession, what you end up having is the prison become incubators for more and more radicals. And this phenomenon, mind you, nothing new. I mean, it's happening just about everywhere. And many countries, like the Saudis I mentioned to you earlier, some now many European countries, made rehabilitation central to the process of de-radicalization. What is happening in Kosovo in this particular era of de-radicalization?
In Kosovo, regarding to our national strategy that combats violent extremism and terrorism, in fact, is a multifaceted approach. It is an approach not only working with those who return, but also to prevent radicalization. So in this, through this national strategy, there is government and different ministries who are working, starting from education and science, so that is working in curricula and through the education and schools. Then the Ministry of Work, of Labor and Welfare, who is working to create the jobs and the qualification to people that can continue with the work and not being in a position to look for different solutions. And the third is to work with the current situation with those who returned to first with the prison, but inside the prison also to try to work with them. It's interesting that we have also many NGOs who are dealing with this and who are shedding the light in how to approach to this phenomena. Definitely only putting them in prison and giving them a burden of that is not the solution, because when they get out from the prison, they will be double angry.
But my understanding is that as of now, Kosovo does not have a comprehensive national program that actually focuses just on those who are returning and those who haven't joined or went elsewhere, joined other organizations. Is there such an effort by the government of Kosovo to have established a comprehensive plan, as we call the stage of strategy, to deal with the people who came back, on the one hand, prevent others from joining other terrorist organizations, other radicals? Is there such a plan of action, such a strategy right now being developed or has developed in Kosovo?
Yes, now we are prepared, not preparing. It's it's in a phase of passing through the government and parliament, and this will be the third national strategy. This national strategy is not only that we have the National Coordinator Against Terrorism or Secretariat for National Coordination or Ministry of Justice, of Finance, who is working with financial intelligence and tax administration to see where the money is going and preventing the other NGOs to go, as they closed 14 of NGOs who were suspected of using money for different issues. It's Kosovo security forces, prosecution, and courts. But there are also, as I mentioned, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, of local government administration, that is through the local authorities is assisting in identifying the elements which may lead to terrorist activists, but also to help people to reestablish.
In this regard, I just want to ask you, what is the level of cooperation between members of the EU and Kosovo? Because to my knowledge, they have not established any kind of systematic, unless you can tell me otherwise, systematic way by which there's ongoing collaboration between the two sides. Are you aware of any formal and or informal collaboration between members of the EU and Kosovo?
Definitely, yes.
Can you elaborate on
yes,
that?
Yes, of course. In Kosovo, there is a biggest ever mission of law. It calls EULEX. And EULEX is also one of organization who is leading. And EULEX is law mission of the European Union, who is regularly giving the reports to the European Union, to the Parliament, and combating terrorism is also one of the issues that our institutions are working together with the European Union through this EULEX. It is not the only one, through UN also and through UNMIC. We are working with Interpol, because Kosovo is still not a member of Interpol, but through UN and with ICITAD, that is assisting professionally to develop law enforcement institution to protect the human rights and counter terrorism. So there are different organizations who are working closely with our law enforcement institution to work to combat terrorism. But this is, I don't think this is what you asked. You were asking more. You are interested in rehabilitation and in working with those.
I mean, is there such a program right now in terms of actually focusing on rehabilitation?
Our government's focus is in fact creating job opportunities. And in economy, we established really very good results. So in World Bank indicators, in MCC, and in others, Kosovo has the biggest growth rate in our region. It's 4%. And there has been multiple programs to enforce employment, especially employment of youth, and of where this category also can.
Yeah, well, it's no question. I think, of course, finding a job opportunity is very, very important. But based on also our, the research we've done in this area, some of the radicals, they take a job, they will make some money, but they don't change their ways. They take opportunity of the job being offered. In the interim, they prepare themselves for the next trip, so to speak. So what many of them, just about every European community, as well as many countries in the Middle East, are devoting, allocating tremendous resources for those who are radicals or being radicalized, providing them with psychiatric support. But there's a goal also to sessions and sit with psychiatrists and tell their stories. Is there such a thing happening in Kosovo at this juncture?
In fact, we are witnesses to see the testimonies of people who were there, or their wives, or their families that are suffering because they went. So from these testimonies and stories, we could identify three categories of different people. First are the people who went there, who are very much discouraged, who are very disappointed and turn back, and they do not pose a threat. And those are the people with whom we have to work to reintegrate in society.
But before you move to the next one, I just want to ask you this. Those who went are disappointed, and they came back. Now, should they be, for example, used as an example? Because in some countries, those who come back very disappointed, they actually are introduced to other young people, young men and women, we've gone there, we know what it's all about, and don't even think it because it's hell. So are you using those who return as in that capacity?
Definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, I have here a testimony of a person who was there and who is waiting now for a court of appeal because he's sentenced for 3.5 years, and telling of his experience there, that he regretted a lot, that he came here, and telling the people that it's not what you think, where are you going, But he also said that prison is not the answer, that you need really to integrate those people. So yes, there are testimonies of family members, there are testimonies of wives who have been taken care of people who went and came back and retell their story to discourage others to go there. I think that the media and civil society is making a good use of their stories to disperse to people, and that also caused this immediate decrease or stop of Kosovars to go to foreign wars.
So you talk about three categories. This is one that's went, this is sheltered, unhappy, and they came back. What's the second category?
The second category can be all people who went there, thought things that they had a kind of obligation, finished that, and came back, and do not think about going. Those are not posing a threat, and those are also the people who need to go through rehabilitation and to become the loyal citizens of Kosovo. And of course,
Did you have experience where someone came in and I did my job, I killed as many as I could, Syrians and Iraqis, and now that I'm done, I'm back here doing my thing? I mean, what do you do with an individual like this?
No, individuals like this are in prison, and the biggest part of those who return are in prison.
But did you have real people who actually came in and said, I've done my job and now I don't need to do this anymore? Do you have real people experience like that?
According to investigations of NGOs, they think that these are these three categories. And the third category is probably those who return and we don't know who they are and our intelligence. And those who think that they did a good job probably. And we need to be aware to our intelligence and our law enforcement institutions to take care, to be aware of who they are, to follow them, and to block them of having any action.
Interesting, there's, statistically speaking, Kosovo is roughly 1,800,000 or almost 2 million. But in relative terms, based on research we've done, in relative terms only, I'm not talking in absolute numbers, more volunteers went from Kosovo to join ISIS than other countries. And again, you know what I'm saying, relative numbers. That is, if 1,000 went from Kosovo, that would be a lot more than 5,000 went from Britain. So in relative terms, there were more. Do you have any idea why, in relative terms only, more Kosovo volunteered to these type of organizations like ISIS, Al-Qaeda and others?
I think that when we are talking about numbers, we have to be aware of political views of these numbers. If me and you have a group and only I go, we can say that 50% went, but in fact it's one person. So if we talk about numbers, I think that 300 person who went for us is too much, even one is too much. But I think that this needs to be taken very relatively. And if we are talking about per capita, then Kosovo per capita is a country with the biggest number of those who are in prison, the biggest number of those who return. Kosovo is the country who is striving not to have any more of these. And Kosovo is a country that from 2015 has 0 per capita persons who went to ISIS. And if we take all this, then we can maybe have a spectrum of mathematics to be used, who need to cherry pick which one of them. But I think the good news is, and good message is, that this flow has stopped. And the Kosovo institutions are really working very hard together with media, together with Islam, traditional Islam association, together with civil society, together with law enforcement organizations, not only in Kosovo but all over, to prevent that. And we must have in mind also that in violent extremism, it is not confined by the country's borders. And Kosovo gave also a very good example of preventing somewhere else to happen. We have to mention the issue that the football match in Albania between Israel and Albania was preventing the radical action, the terrorist action was preventing exactly by Kosovo's police. So Kosovo is giving additional value to the safety, security of the region, combating terrorism. So I think that if we are talking about radicalization, about deradicalization, about combating terrorism, then Kosovo is a success story.
And you attribute that in the main to what? You attribute it to what?
We are, at the beginning I said that before 99 that was totally unknown to us. And after 2008, Kosovo was not administered by its own institution, but it was administered by UN. And I have to say that UN was not too much interested to deal with this phenomenon. It was interested to keep safe stability, but not in-depth stability and solving the problems when it began. But after 2008, when Kosovo declared independence and our institutions started to work, then immediately in 2009, we drafted the national strategy. Our institution was very much aware. Our journalists were very vocal. Our members of parliament were very vocal of this. And we saw the volume of this phenomena and started to combat it in every way that we could. And voila, zero versus
Well, that's a good news.
Of course, not only for Kosovo.
That's great. And let me just go back to the, since Kosovo became independent in 2008, right?
Yes.
2008.
It will be soon 10 years.
And yes, and you have roughly 114 countries that recognize Kosovo, right? Am I right in the number?
More than 110, yeah.
And well, I gave you 4 more. Now, let's take some of the major countries that have not as yet recognized Kosovo. What is the problem? I just want the audience here to understand the concern, the issues. Now, they would, if 110 countries recognize Kosovo, what happened to the other 83 more that actually are members of the United Nations? Members of the United Nations. Why is it? What do you attribute that to?
Thank you very much for this opening this issue. I'd like to talk about this. Kosovo is not recognized by some countries, and the reasons are different. Russia, China, India, Indonesia.
Yeah. Okay.
And there are different categories of countries who didn't recognize Kosovo. First is the category of countries who have their internal problems, as Spain, for example, or Cyprus. And recognition of Kosovo, they imagine that it will damage their own problem inside their country. The second category is the countries who have the rival with the United States. And they think that Kosovo is sponsored by the United States, and if they want to recognize Kosovo, then they need to exchange favors with the United States with some territories that are in different places, for example, Russia. What other countries? And yes, there are other countries who had a link with Yugoslavia and with Tito, and who think that the independence of Kosovo is a result of secession. That's not true. So the first category, as Spain or Cyprus, Kosovo is not an umbrella that will protect any country from their internal problems. So not recognizing Kosovo, in fact, they enforced their own problems to the next level. Instead of recognizing and saying, yes, Kosovo's independence is sui generis, it has nothing to do with my country, and going on, they in fact inflated that and gave also the possibility for their problems to increase. The other category, I know from Russia, for example, they said that Kosovo, we will talk to your sponsor and not to you. So there are different things that they want to trade or to achieve something from that recognition. And the third category that I discovered during my year and a half here are the countries who do not know how Kosovo became an independent state. I have to tell to all of them that Kosovo is only one of 7 states who emerged after the dissolution of Yugoslavia and not the secession. Kosovo was the integral part of the federation of Republic of Yugoslavia.
Right.
It was not only territory drawn inside the Serbia. In 1986-87, Kosovo, after death of Tito, Kosovo is one of constitutive part of federation. In fact, nominated, gave the president of Yugoslavia. And if it was only the drawn territory inside Serbia, how could we do that? And another argument, legal argument, is that in 2010, in request of Serbia, ICJ, International Court of Justice, that is a part of UN, gave the advisory decision that Kosovo's independence is not against international law. So this is one more legal reason. Another reason, another aspect is humanitarian aspect that put Kosovo in sui generis situation, not comparable to Crimea, to Catalonia, to whatever, is that in Kosovo there was a genocide. It was the expulsion of more than half of population. Myself and my colleagues were also refugees during the time, expelled from our houses. The war ended with 13,950 murdered, killed, 20,000 sexually abused. It was the burned land. It was the war-torn country. And this situation made totally different issues with other situations that countries might have. So yes, there are 3 different categories of states that still didn't recognize.
So what way do you see the effort ought to be made in order to change the dynamics of recognition of Kosovo by the other major powers? And of course, Russia has a veto power. The Connecticut has the veto power in the Security Council, so you cannot get recognition as long as China or Russia veto such resolution. That's what happened.
Yeah.
How do we change the dynamics? What do we do in order to move this forward and make sure that actually Kosovo will become a member of the United Nations?
Yes. To become the member of United Nations or other organizations or being recognized by other countries, I think that most of them expect Kosovo to finish the dialogue with Serbia. In fact, dialogue with Serbia is not a dialogue for status of Kosovo. Status of Kosovo is that from 2008 independent and will not change. But the good thing is that both countries have European perspective and that we have the clear sign that no country will be accepted to European Union unless they do not solve their internal problems and they do not recognize each other. And that also was very vocal from major European countries is membership of Kosovo in UN.
But my understanding is the conversation or dialogue with Serbia, and it's not happening on a regular basis, is that Serbia still has these demands and requirements. I mean, Serbia is the main obstacle as far as Kosovo is concerned. Am I right? And of course, the EU has been saying just exactly what you just said. You have to reconcile between you two before we consider membership in the EU. Now, how far this discussion between Serbia and Kosovo has gone so far? Because as far as I know, Serbia is not making any significant concession to move these negotiations forward.
In fact, negotiation never stopped from the beginning. They stopped only during the election time when Serbia and Kosovo went through the election. But nevertheless, the dialogue continued in presidential level, although through the election the parliament was not ready and government was not in place. But in presidential level, presidents met in Brussels, and they met also during the high-level week in September here in New York. That secures that the dialogue is continuing. It may change dynamics, it may change issues, but the dialogue is continuing, and it has efforts on both sides.
Can you identify for the audience what are the main obstacles as far as Serbia goes? What it is that Kosovo does not find it possible to reconcile with Serbia? What are the? I want you to point out 2 or 3 issues from your perspective that are actually making it difficult or not impossible to move this process forward.
During the time from war up to now, Serbia in fact made more difficult to themselves the recognition, as putting Kosovo as a part of Serbia in their constitution, not making efforts to soothe the situation, but in fact through populism and through the harsh words made for their population even more difficult to think about reconciliation. But now lately we have some encouraging words from the new president of Serbia, who started the internal dialogue, and who says that Serbia needs to have huge concessions and find a solution with Albanians or Kosovo.
What is the nature of the concession? That's what I want to hear. I mean, what it is that they want.
$1 million question.
What
we still do not know. We still do not know
what are these negotiations are all about?
In fact, the negotiation or for normalization of relations. Negotiation produced more than 34 agreements, but these are agreements for integrated border management, for recognition of diplomas, for energy, for telecom, for free movement. We have our liaison office in Belgrade in ambassadorial level, and Serbia have its office in Pristina and Kosovo. So these are the issues, but through dialogue and through the path toward European Union, in fact, we strive to settle unfinished businesses and to deblock the way of each other toward European Union and become the neighbor as we should.
Yeah. So who is mediating? Who is mediating?
European Union and High Representative Mogherini is herself.
But based on my understanding of it, so far they have not really had any, they have not made any inroads with Serbia in particular. You are ready, and because of it, all along ready, willing, and able. But the Serbs have been very obnoxious, very difficult about it. So Mogherini did not seem to make any serious inroads yet. Anyone is getting involved? Maybe you should ask me to get involved with this.
I think it's going to be
That's what I do, conflict resolution.
In fact, it's very possible that U.S. will be involved also in dialogue, as that is approaching toward the end, and U.S. will also be engaged.
So
maybe you can be from
well, invite me. I won't say no. I'd like to see this conflict resolved between Serbia and Kosovo, really. It's time. Tell me, I mentioned to you a friend who came to visit us. She was a journalist. She was a very well-known journalist. She was awarded special recognition by the State Department. And she is a very courageous journalist from Kosovo. She wrote something that obviously the people, the government did not like it. And she was attacked terribly. She was really physically attacked. She ended up in the hospital for a couple of weeks, maybe more. And she's been in touch. We've been talking with her about things. She, at this point, still wants to leave at all costs. I cannot stay here because I'm always fearful that I'm going to be attacked again and again. I understand the change, the positive change that is taking place in Kosovo. I really personally have no doubt about it because we've been looking into it very, very carefully. But here we have a person who is so concerned about her still personal security. Where does this come from? If she still doesn't feel comfortable to walk in the street. Now I'm told she has actually bodyguards. The government itself hired bodyguards to take care of her when she walks out in the street. To that extent, why is she still being threatened from your perspective? You know the personality.
Of course I know.
You know?
Yeah.
Why is she, what sort of atmosphere continues to prevail today in Kosovo that she still feels terrified to go out on her own? And I'm not implying something necessarily is wrong with the people, with the police or with the security, but there's that terrible fear. She's not alone as far as I know. What do you attribute that to from your perspective?
I admire her courage, and I'm glad that she's not alone with that courage. There have been other journalists and other politicians who have been threatened. During my parliamentarian work, I've been threatened also because I raised the voice and I put together women and men parliamentarians against Imam who was preaching violence, and we together went to the head of the Islamic Association to ask to dismiss him and to be aware what this happened. I've been threatened together with a couple of my friends, parliamentarians. I had to close my Facebook because every day there was different stories, different threats, different things. I'm glad that this is not anymore the reason. And courage always has its own price. I admire her, what she does, and she's continuing to do. I didn't know that she's working with bodyguards. I know that she is now advisor to Speaker of Parliament, and I hope.
No, actually, the government itself appointed has hired 24 hours protection because she kept being threatened. To this day, she's still being threatened because of what she wrote. Let me just change the subject because we have another wild player in the region, and that's called Mr. Erdogan. Turkey. Yeah. Tell me, how is the relationship between Kosovo and Turkey at this time? Because Erdogan, as far as I know, he likes to have his wings spread just about everywhere. And he, I know, also did not leave Kosovo alone yet. What is your take on Erdogan and what he's trying to achieve? He wants to claim he's the leader now of the Sunni Muslim world. He would like to be. And of course, he's been rebuffed by the Egyptian and the Saudis, but just about everyone in the region. What is the relationship between Kosovo and Turkey?
In fact, Kosovo and Turkey had a very good relations, especially in economic relations. Turkey is one of our good economic partners. And relation with Turkey, there are people who emigrated, in fact were expelled from Kosovo during, after the Second World War. There were a lot of people who were expelled, trying to wipe Kosovo from Albanians, and it's a pretty big population of Kosovars who are living in Turkey. But beside that, beside the economy, banks, some companies who are joint companies that are working, Kosovo is independent and it has independent decisions. And we showed in many cases that we do not need a sponsor for our decisions, but Kosovo is independent and takes its own decisions.
Now, this is true, but Turkey is, when it comes to economy, yes, they cooperate and work with just about anyone who wants to trade. Because Erdogan is very much focused on economic development. That's really his the strength that he has still today. Otherwise, I mean, he has become a pariah just about everywhere in the region. My understanding is, wasn't any effort on the part of Turkey to close some of the schools?
Yes.
Around that? I'd like you to talk about it, because I understand that some of the Fethullah Gulen schools that were open in Kosovo. And now you have the Mr. Erdogan, who's actually putting a pressure on you and many of these countries in the Caucus and otherwise to close these schools.
We didn't close that.
So tell me what happened. I'd like to understand.
There are schools who were open after the independence or before, probably before the independence. And that were very strong schools. And a lot of children wanted to go there because the competition was very high, the quality of education was very high. And those schools still operate. And when I told that we are independent states that take decision, I was meaning this. That schools are open and closed in Kosovo due to our legislation, if they comply with the legislation, not because someone from different countries asked to do so, or if any journalists talk bad about whoever politician from different countries. We are not those who will imprison those journalists because somebody out of Kosovo wants to. We are independent and we take our decisions independently.
I know that, I'm sure, but the thing is, my understanding also that Turkey also trying to make trade-off. If you do this, you close the school, or do that, then we will make this kind of concession when it comes to trade, to assistance. That's what I hear what Turks are doing. I mean, have you been basically telling them mind your business? And how is this working? I mean, knowing Erdogan and how Erdogan behaves, it doesn't take easy now for an answer.
Schools are open, they are functioning, not easy as earlier, but they are working. Banks are working, factories, companies are normally working.
How about the press? My also understanding there was a lot of pressure on the press not to criticize Erdogan, not to do this. I mean, I know that's taken place. How many of your press corps is listening or abiding by, or are careful not to attack, not to criticize Turkey? Is it happening now?
You mentioned our mutual friend.
Yes, Arbada, yes.
So
But she didn't write against, she hates Turkey.
And many of our journalists are very independent. We like it or not.
No, I like it.
But whoever like it or not, they are very independent, very strong, and they do not care, not for our government and less for our government. And I think that's good. I think it is good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now you've been in the state, it's about a year and a half, right? So tell me about, not your personal aspiration, you want to be the former ambassador of Kosovo, am I right?
It's not about Teuta.
No, it's not the Teuta, I'm talking about elevating Kosovo.
Republic of Kosovo.
Yeah, Republic of Kosovo to become a state.
Definitely.
Now what are the work...
It is a state, just to become a member of UN.
Yes. What it is, and I'd like to know really, I'm not being a critical of the East, what are the efforts are you personally making here in the United States? And I'm sure you are, to try to, for example, in connection that we have a new administration, it's called Trump administration. Am I right?
In fact,
tell me, not seriously, how is Mr. Trump is dealing with the issue? Any kind of connection, any kind of dialogue with this administration?
In fact, yes.
I would like to know more about it, yes.
I have an excellent relation with the ambassador of US to UN and other ambassadors, Nikki Haley and Michelle Sisson, and with previous Samantha Powers and others. And regarding Kosovo, it is not important which party is leading the United States. In fact, the bombing started when Bill Clinton was president, but independence was done when Bush was president. And it's interesting probably for you to know that we have the statue of Bill Clinton in middle of Pristina, and the road where there is the street is called Bush Boulevard.
I'm sure Trump went to Christina and saw Bill Clinton's statue. He would demand, remove it and put me there instead. Yeah.
Or maybe you want
sure.
your statue there.
I cannot imagine that Trump is there, but look at Clinton's statue and say nothing about it.
I think Kosovo is grateful to the United States, and it is not the gratefulness that started in 1999. It is going 100 years more, 105 years ago, when Woodrow Wilson was that time in a conference of London and in Berlin, where they were deciding about the territories after the dissolution of Ottoman Empire. And unfortunately, at that time, the forces, Russia and Bulgaria's kingdom and others were too strong, and territories of Albanians were divided 100 years ago in 5 states. And Woodrow Wilson was the one who said, stop, enough, we will not allow any more division of the territory of Albanians. And that, the territory of Albania state became. Unfortunately, Kosovo was that time given to Serbia. The part of Macedonia, with majority of Albanians, was given to Kingdom of Bulgaria. Another part of Yanina was given to Greece, and the part of which in Lucia was given to Kingdom of Montenegro. And our respect, our love for the United States, our gratefulness for the United States is not only from 17 years ago, it goes beyond. And if you go, I would like you to go and visit Kosovo. You will see in every house, you will find at least one flag of the United States.
Oh, that's very nice.
Whatever is your internal politics is yours.
No, that's
For us, the United States is a special treatment.
I know you're not going to say anything, and you shouldn't, or you don't need to, anything. My feeling towards Trump is my own problem. But really the question I wanted to ask is that, do you feel this administration, I'm very on a serious note, is more supportive, less supportive, say, the Obama administration or the Bush administration? Do you feel that this, or just the same?
It is interesting that whenever we need something, since we are not a member of UN and we have big difficulties to enter even to the building or push something or to understand something, it's enough just to call Ambassador Haley or Michel Sisson, who are very busy with different kinds of work that they have, and they respond immediately. They respond immediately with a high interest, with willingness to help a little Kosovo somewhere very far away with all the means that they have. And I'm very grateful. Myself and our diplomats here are working around the clock, coping with all these difficulties. We are called Consulate General because that was the only way to be here. But in fact, our work is very little of consular work. Our work and our mission is like mission to United Nations. Myself, I'm meeting regularly ambassadors of different countries. Our diplomats have divided their own parts of the world, their committees and bodies of United Nations, and they are working round the clock, meeting their own counterparts, reporting, passing message, taking messages. So it will be only the change of our status, but our work will continue easier. Like,
Yeah, one of the problems is that, you don't read much about Kosovo. Because of that.
good, because there is no war.
Because there's not too many problems. No, seriously. And there were attacks and killings and violence, then you read about it, and there's not much. So the people, by and large, Americans, if you ask people on the street, what do you know about Kosovo? Probably the majority say, I don't know much about Kosovo. But my question to you is there any effort on your part to make some kind of public relation campaign of sort, not in a negative way, but to talk about the issues that you like to talk about, that you need to talk about? For example, about, say, recognition of Kosovo as fully independent state recognized by the international community, by the United Nations. Is enough public relation efforts being done?
It's never enough.
But can you tell me some of the things that you might are doing and you would like to do?
Yes, definitely. I will tell some of good work that our diplomats are doing here in New York. We are organizing from time to time the exhibitions. We are bringing some opera singers here. A month ago, we organized the film, the DocuFest film here in New York, and theater staging the theater. For Mother Teresa, there was a very big exhibition in premises of our consulate. We organized conferences. There was a conference for interplay organized in our premises. So there are many different kinds. We are visiting different organizations. Today, me and two of my colleagues, we were at World Jewish Congress.
Yes.
Telling them about Kosovo. There is a very little knowledge about Kosovo and about Albanians who rescued Jews during the Second World War. And it is a story, very important story that needs to be told. So these are only some. We really need to work more. We really need to spread more this success story, this good story. Kosovo is not the best country in economy, but Kosovo achieved from the bird land to become developing country. Kosovo achieved to have the highest standards ever for integration of minority communities. Kosovo won the gold medal in Olympics in the first time we participated. Kosovo produced some of the best singers, Rita Ora, who in fact shared my surname, but it was difficult to pronounce, so she showed it out. From watchmaker to watch, from Sahatqija to Ora. And others, Bebereja, Era Estrevi, Dua Lipa, they are all Kosovars who are telling that Kosovo is not an Islamic extremist country, but it's a normal country where people are striving to find their places under the sky. And many other, them, two girls, why every time girls? Two girls climbed to Everest, Uta Ibrahimi and Agneta Shala. So, and many other. How can I forget? Malina Higmenti, our golden judoka, that made Japanese envy her. We took the gold medal in Rio, and now she's killing wherever she goes. She brings back gold. So there are so many good news that really need to be told.
That's my point. I mean, this is what I bet you anything. How many of you knew about this thing before? No, seriously. Raise your hand if you knew about it. You see what I mean? Very small minority. You knew about it all. And that is the point. I think more effort.
Invite us more often.
I will. You won't get rid of me so quickly. Don't worry. No, that's a great. I really think, because I feel for the country. I mean, I'm trying to give you a little hard time. That's, but you know where my heart is.
I was a politician, so.
I'm not a politician. No, but you know where my heart is. I really feel it's about overdue. Kosovo become a country recognized by the rest of the world, and it's about time. And every effort needs to be made. And I know you're doing a great job. I'm not just complimenting you, because I follow, because that's my business, is to follow what's going on around there, especially when it comes to that particular area. But I'm going to, stop here and take some questions from the audience. I'm sure you have a lot of questions to ask. And I would like to entertain as many questions as I can. So please limit yourself to a question, right? And the ambassador will try to respond to you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Charlie Leewing. I run into Kosovars almost every day in New York. And I know there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands in New York. Do you have accurate data as to how many Kosovars there are in New York City?
In fact, Albanians from Albania, from Kosovo, from Montenegro, from Macedonia, they all treat themselves here in the United States, in New York, as Albanians. So I do not have divided data. But I know that in New York lives 50,000, and in America there are 300,000 of Albanians who are living. And wherever you go, you see the gratitude from Americans that say that Albanians and Kosovars are not the people who go for welfare. They try to work, to give to country, and to be the valuable citizens. And I'm very proud of that.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
First, as an NYU alum, thank you for putting this together so now I get a chance to visit my school. Kosovo is, Mr. Sejdiu is in Balkans, and everybody knows Kosovo because there was war going on, people getting killed, seeing on CNN. The last known fact is Kosovo has religious tolerance. And Muslims and Orthodox and Jews, Albanians and Catholics have lived there without any conflict for hundreds of years. Pope Francis, first visit once he was elected Pope, visited Albania and recognized this. If there is one thing that Kosovo can export, is this religious tolerance. So in your opinion, what would you advise parents, educators, or policymakers to reproduce this? Because I don't believe Albanians are special. I think that this religious tolerance can be reproduced in other places. What would you advise them?
Thanks a lot, Jasmine. I will use this question also to tell to other people here that in Kosovo, for example in Jakova where I live, the cemetery is not divided in Catholic, in Christian, and in Muslim. People are buried as they live together. In Ferizaj, there is in the same compound, in the same ground, is the Orthodox Church and Muslim mosque. In Jakova is also the same. So wherever you go, whichever picture you take, you will see the church and the mosque together. I will not use the word tolerance. I will use the word harmony. Because you tolerate somebody in a metro because you cannot move them. But in Kosovo and among Albanians, I think the word harmony is more appropriate. We go to each other when it's Bayram and when it's Christmas or when it's Easter. And during our refugee time, my family stayed in Catholic village, in a very small Catholic village. And in one house, we were 300. Mostly cultural Muslims are there. And when we fled from that village through the mountains to Albania, it was Easter time. They gave us eggs, and those eggs were our food through the mountain to rescue. I think that this harmony is something that really need to be cherished, really need to be published more, really need to be shown that, yes, of course, it is possible. It is existing there. And another thing also, not only Christian and Muslims, the Jewish population there, in a majority Muslim, When you go and say, I'm Jew, oh, great, come, you are our friends. There was some of rabbis who went to Kosovo in the Interfaith Conference, and they came back to US with the best memories, and they are also spreading this good word among themselves. And I read today also that Jewish community was together with the ambassador in Belgrade of Israel. 2 days ago was in Pristina, and they pledged to invest 100 million in Kosovo. And I'm very sure it was because of many people all around the world spread this word of harmony, spread this word of tolerance, spread this word of people who can live together and they can work together.
That's correct, yes. Yes, yes, please.
What's the status of a Serbian minority?
Just repeat the question, you are my brother.
What's the status of a Serbian minority in Kosovo?
Thanks a lot for that question. 90% of population in Kosovo are Albanian, but we have 3 official languages. Albanian and Serbian language is the official language everywhere. Turkish language and Bosniak language are the languages in official use that everybody, parliamentarians speak in their languages, but documents and others are official in the municipality where they have at least 3% of population. Serb population in Kosovo, I will tell you a little bit about parliament and government. Our parliament is unicameral parliament. It has 120 seats. 20 seats are reserved for minority communities. It's almost double of their real representation in society. 10 seats are reserved for Serb minority, and 10 other seats are divided between Turks, Bosniaks, Roma, Ashkali, Gorani minorities. So, while for Albanian parties, you need to have at least 5% of threshold to become the member of parliament. For minority communities, there is no threshold. I remember 2 mandates, previous mandates. There have been a Serb with 31 votes who became the member of parliament, and at the same time, Albanians with 10,000 votes were out of parliament. But I think these positive measures, this positive discrimination called, but I don't like the word discrimination. They are affirmative measures, have been used to create the proper environment when minorities will feel safe, will feel strong, and will feel the valuable members of society. In our parliament, there is a special committee that I don't know it exists elsewhere. It's a committee of communities, comprised 80% from different minority communities. And that parliamentary committee, together with budget and with legislation, who control whether the law has enough money to be implemented and whether it's in accordance with the constitution, this committee has a right of veto to block every law or decision that is in any kind harming the interests of communities. So there are many other measures that in each and every committee, at least one of president and 2 vice presidents need to be from minorities. In municipality level is the same formula. In police, in our institution, there is quota that need to be filled with minority communities in so to be integrated in the community. There is official television, RTK3. It's Serb language, and it is in center of Pristina. I gave many interviews in that television. They live with us, they work with us, they vote with us. In previous election in June, parliamentary election, and in October in local election, Serb participated in biggest ever number. Turnout was the highest that they had in accordance to Kosovo legislation. So it's not perfect, we have a lot of things to do, but we also have some good numbers, some good news to share with friends. I hope I gave you the...
Yeah, the lady there, please.
Just a question.
Just wait for the mic, please.
Is Serbo-Croatian in the academic?
Is it working, the mic?
Is Serbo-Croatian taught as part of the curriculum in school?
Serbian, yes.
Serbian, the
Yes.
Serbian language.
It's official, it's everywhere.
Yes, this gentleman here, please.
What is the business climate like for foreign investment in Kosovo?
Thank you, Ed. I have to share a good news. World Bank indicators in doing business. Last year raised for 34 places. This year continued that good trend and went up. Also coming to the 40th place in the list. And that was the most reformist country in economy. It was through World Bank, but it was also in Millennium Challenge Corporation that Kosovo signed the agreement with the MCC, and it passed the threshold, and it was the best reformist country in economy, and that makes us very, very happy.
Yes, gentleman here, please.
Thank you for being here tonight. I think in 2014, the Assembly of Kosovo appointed a special court housed in The Hague, but run by Kosovo. Yes?
Yes.
There was for the prosecution of crimes against ethnic minorities and also members potentially of the KLA. Are they still operating today as a court, and how are those proceedings going on?
Court is established, and the people who are working there are all in places, and we are expecting to start with some indictments in January of 2018. But it is not a court against KLA or court for crimes to minorities. It is the special court for crimes committed after the war, in a period of 2 years after the war. So we don't need anything to hide. Those who are criminals, we cannot protect because we share the same nationality. We need to clean whoever did, it's individual, and it needs to be responsible for individual crimes. But that does not mean that KLA was a terroristic organization or organization who is criminal organization. It was the gathering of a people who were threatened for extinction and rose to protect our homes and our land. KLA never went to Serbia for fight. They were fighting to protect citizens of Kosovo from invasion from Serb paramilitary and military forces of Milosevic.
Your Excellency, thank you for being here tonight. My name is Bojan Dobrev.
Speak a little louder.
My name is Bojan Dobrev. I'm a graduate here from the program. I'm originally from Bulgaria. And I wanted to ask you, have you looked into the root causes of radicalization? Kosovo being a majority Muslim country, has different dynamics than Bulgaria. We have about 10% Muslim population there. And we have different dynamics when it comes to, within the Muslim population, we have ethnic Turkish, ethnic Bulgarian, ethnic Roma population, and then we have the traditional Islam, and then we have the newly educated imams. There are different dynamics. What are the root causes? What do you think are the root causes of radicalization in Kosovo?
I think that Kosovo is not diverse from other countries. Whether it is Britain or Belgium or France or Bulgaria or Kosovo, I think that those people who are radicalized were in fact the people who felt left alone, left behind. Whether in European countries, they didn't manage to be integrated in the society. Or in Kosovo, there were mostly people came from the low financial families, standing low without the job and others. So I think that knowing the cause is in fact also the finding the cure, not to work. I think that all countries, including Kosovo, didn't take care too much about, especially youth, unemployed youth, or didn't take care too much about education and talking more about these things. And we are paying the price, whichever country is paying the price. And as we spoke also, this will not be the sprint, it will be the marathon that will need all communities, all countries to be integrated in combating and preventing the extremism.
A quick suggestion when it comes to PR. Our program, we organize global field intensive courses, and we go field intensive classes.
Okay.
And we go to different countries. We have different concentrations, the peace building, the development, and then we go on the ground and we actually study how things are done.
Come to
So
Kosovo.
absolutely, that is a great. It's going to be great PR
Very welcome.
for understanding.
We organize every year Interfaith Conference, where more than 200 scholars, NGOs, media come and discuss about different issues of religion, about harmony, about managing to work together, treating different issues, and I would also use this platform also to, not only to tell you about this, but also to see how can you come and visit Kosovo, maybe establish exchange of students, or when I was in Parliament, there were a lot of graduate students who were coming, spending some time in Parliament, in government, in NGOs, not only finishing their own homework, their own work, but also seeing by their eyes the reality around.
That's a great one. Thank you so much for taking the time. I think everyone enjoyed it. You can see a lot of questions. But if you want to impart with one more message, please feel free. Anything else you'd like to impart with to tell our group here?
I would invite you to come to visit our consulate. We will be very happy to share some more information and to talk to you about some issues that I hadn't possibility now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I prepared a long speech.